Y'all, I have been fighting for my life in my FB comment section today. I had a Gypsy video that did pretty well yesterday, and it's just astonishing to me that there are so many people out there that still don't know the truth about the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. I mean, it's okay, it makes for good engagement, and I really can't blame them because this is the lies that were sold to the entire world by the media. And Gypsy. If you have not watched Beccascoops' most recent live over on Yellow Tango, I have uploaded some clips. She played snippets for us from an interview that she did with a detective that actually worked on the Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. Now, he is saying a lot of things that a lot of us already assume that have dug very deep into this case, but to hear it come from the mouth of somebody that worked that case is phenomenal. And now that he's no longer employed, he can speak freely.
So we are going to go over some snippets of a detective who worked on the case. He was so kind as to talk with me, and I'm keeping his name anonymous. I mean, I'm married to a detective, and they don't like to critique or say, "Oh, this might not have been fair," or
right.
It's a weird, right? So
it is. But I was retired, so I decided that I'm going to say what I feel.
What you really feel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, definitely was more aware of.
I feel like his cognitive and emotional. How would you just? The question is, how would you describe Nicholas Godejohn's cognitive and emotional state compared to Gypsy's?
Well, he was extremely honest, for one,
right?
Which obviously goes to show how naive he is. You know what I mean? Almost a fantasy like. And if you watch the interviews, he's open. He's talking to the female deputy detective, which I think was a good choice to pick her to do the interview.
Right.
But then you see Gypsy, and she's getting off the couch and listening under the door. Yeah. She's, you know what I mean? She's more, I think definitely she was more aware of what had happened, and he wasn't. He was almost still in a fantasy land, even though he was sitting in a sheriff's department and being interviewed by detectives from 3 states away.
Right. Exactly.
I think anybody that has worked in law enforcement that would see him or watch him or talk to him to realize pretty quickly that he's got some serious cognitive issues, the developmental type issues, because nobody just sits and tells the story like he does. That's the first time ever in my career that I had somebody do that.
This particular detective is very, well, you're going to hear it in his own words, very upset with what he calls the disparity between the sentences. He doesn't agree with it.
And her lawyer manipulated the system as well as the prosecutor in Greene County.
Yeah.
The two cases are just the disparity in the sentences is not right.
That's what bothers you the most, then.
100%. Yay, he's found guilty. And I was like, okay, what's the sentence? When is the sentencing? And they're like, there's no sentencing. It's automatic for life. And I'm like, with no parole either. And I actually kind of felt a little bit sick in my stomach, like, geez, this guy does not deserve to never ever see daylight again while she's going to be out making money and still manipulating people. So I just wish people would have a little more open mind and listen to all the facts. The only difference, honestly, between Nick and Gypsy is that Nick did the stabbing, and even then, we're not sure Gypsy didn't. She claims she claims she didn't, and Nick was still protecting her.
Right. So I just want to pause here. I was pretty surprised when he said, we really don't know if Gypsy didn't. I was like, whoa.
Right. Even in prison, he was still protecting her. Matter of fact, he made a comment. I believe it was one of the interviews that somebody did with him. he will never, throw her under the bus
Right.
ever. So there was a lot of belief that maybe she was more involved in the actual killing than they admitted. But even so, it's still smart enough, manipulative enough to know she had to pick the right person who she could blame it on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, she mails the knife back to his house.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. That was crazy. And it was still there. I mean, they didn't try to hide it, or why wouldn't you just take it? My wife and I always talk about this when we see these TV shows. It's like, why wouldn't you just take the knife out in some field, or, Wisconsin has a ton of lakes, take it somewhere
Right.
and throw. They'd never find it.
Right.
But I guess that's why they get caught, because they're not.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, this would be just purely speculation, but do you think she was like, so what I know of Gypsy is she's a planner. Gypsy's a huge planner. Yeah. So she plans everything, all the contingencies. Well, if this happens, if this happens, if this happens, do you think there was any element of her going, well, if it goes south, I guess I can blame it on him and the knife's there? And
I think that she probably had that in the back of her mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think she probably did like Nick, but I think it's obvious if you watch any of the interviews or the trial, even that, he thought this was his princess and he was going to carry her away and live happily ever after. And I think she kind of thought, well, he's all right. He'll do what I say. And if it comes down to it, I'll throw him under the bus.
He's speaking about the district attorney. Again, like I said, he's retired, so he can speak a lot more freely about the district attorney where he couldn't if he was still, employed. So
Patterson framed it from the beginning as he went along with the explanation of, here's this poor girl.
Right.
He just bought it hook, line, and sinker.
He did. Yeah.
I don't know why he so quickly, I don't know if that was an election year or not. I don't know, but obviously it was political to be able to say, look, she was abused, but she still has to be responsible, but we're going to get the real bad guy and put him away forever. And
so and the only reason I'm asking is we're trying to figure out what Patterson knew and what he didn't know, or did he even look at any of the records, or was he just so quick to offer the plea deal, like we're going to go with the plea deal, not really investigate? It seems like they really didn't investigate her side of it too much. Is that how you feel about it?
Yeah, 100%. I think once the defense was willing to accept what he thought was a reasonable offer, I think he was good with that. I think he ran with that.
To him, they didn't really even fully get through with the investigation, and the plea deal was already there. So,
and again, I think, here's this. I think once the defense was willing to accept what he thought was a reasonable offer, I think he was good with that. I think he ran with that. And again, I think, here's this girl, she's been in the public eye. Yeah. There's obviously been some abuse. Well, and we all know in law enforcement and justice court, look, the person that talks always pretty much gets some kind of a deal. I would be more afraid of having Gypsy out in public than Nick.
The haircut?
Yeah, it looks horrible, but I'm not picking on her.
Okay, no, but this is weird, right? Because people that are trying to figure her out, she claims that her mother shaved her head, right? That all of these things, and it's like you would think that you would not want to go back to having super short hair, and then she's buying wigs, which was part of her crime, right?
Right.
Isn't that weird?
That is weird. It's almost as if, I don't know why she's trying. She's grabbing at straws to try to stay relevant, and as you said, probably to make money. And she's going back to what she knows.
She's going back to what she knows, right? And this live stream, we're showing her obsession with weight, the dancing, right? The videos dancing to Nick, the videos now dancing on TikTok, the wigs.
Hearing everything that retired detective is saying, it's as if our worst fears have came true. We have a dangerous murderer that is on social media. And I really hope this will help some of the people understand why I post what I post, why I do what I do. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that has helped spreading the truth in the name of Deedee Blanchard, especially Beccascoops and that anonymous detective. Thank you so very much. And I cannot wait for this documentary to come out.